to write? Do you like it? Do you like it? Set our spirit free as we move into the light. Oh, it's you and me.
Okay, I just need you guys to know that you're only one of us can talk at a time, and I can hear you. So what I'm going to attempt to do now that we're synced with Tim is opening as we usually would, and then I'll invite you one at a time to read. Does that sound good? Okay, great, thank you. And thank you to Dr. Ted Cadillac for making this happen. He has a few intricacies in linking it up with the YouTube channel, so that's what we're attempting to do. That took a few minutes. That's why your host was a little late, according to Mr. Primer. Thank you. Welcome to For the Love of Words. We're still keeping the F in there for now. And 12 and a half years strong. Hello to Levity John. What's his name again? Longevity John. At home, who's resting. Thank you for hosting us. They've been doing many wonderful concerts of this nature with just the performers and linking to YouTube. So thanks to Tim for all his great work, and they're producing some wonderful shows. I'm just going to do one, gang, and then we'll go over to Marcus, and we'll kind of try and make it flow that way, if that's okay. We'll just do one piece each and kind of move it along. So short piece. Got to turn my video. I don't show myself on mute. For me or for Rachel? Okay, well, let's just flow ahead, gang. Tim doesn't have an image. He's just working the audio, and he does. Hi, Rachel. Anyway, thanks, gang, for gathering. I've just got a quick one here to open up, and then we'll go over to Mr. Primer and move along from there. Thank you to our wonderful readers. We have a very loyal cadre of readers who come almost every month. So thanks, gang. And this was Mark's idea to try and initiate a Zoom meeting so that we could all be here. Good idea, Mark. Quote. We'll see how it goes. I'll begin with the quote from Walter Pater. Yeah. I will have to discover in a minute who all is in the room. So welcome, Cassandra. And somebody is shuffling around and banging quite a bit, so that just so that you know that any noise that you make around your device comes through the whole picture. So yes, so we have Mr. Primer, we've got John Hadfield, we've got Rachel and Andrew. Is that right? And Cassandra. Anybody else? Deb, sorry. Debbie. Anybody else I have to know about? Well, I know, but I can't do both, apparently, John. Yeah, sorry. I've got a room microphone and sorry. Right, so I'm not part of the meeting. I see what you mean visually. I had trouble standing the phone up. All right, here we go, gang. It is the addition of strangeness to beauty that constitutes the romantic character in art. Walter Pater. And I think Mr. Hadfield reacted by thinking he might be the addition of strangeness to beauty, that a man would be. But I was wondering if it would be within beauty itself. I've got a poem here to begin. 12 years of writing, not years. Writing, not writing. This goes back to my love of the Presbyterians, of course. There I am. Hi, Andrew. All right, I know what I can do. Okay, you guys, you have to be quiet at home too, you know. I, f- I fold my tears into my skin. I do not let detritus in. For what can shift me to the core is if you were to come to my door. I thank the stars, you're long and lean. I cannot make this goddamn garden scene. I'm left bereft on western shores. The woman, she held me, she once adored me. From where she sat, I looked pretty good. Where has that love gone, love of mine? She now suits men who have ripe plums. Yes, flirty now with summer chums. She sees the future bathed in blue. I could not ask for more. When romance knocks on summer's door, I clasp my hands in Presbyterian bliss. I cannot fault what she may do. I clasp my hands in Presbyterian bliss, for what to me is better than this in a world devoid of new romancers, of slippery shoulder-shirted blonde and blue-jean dancers? And for all the world on this Canadian soil, I for lyrics and true adventure toil. And far across the ocean on the Russian side, where beauty breaks the cresting tide, she writes me tales in a foreign tongue, lands full of history, cultures of mystery. I truly could not ask for more when romance knocks on internet's door. I clasp my hands in Presbyterian bliss. I could not ask for more than this. Somehow this is so much harder. Usually I feel comfortable sitting here, and now I feel very odd. But that's okay. You too can feel odd. Hi, Andrew. You look relaxed. No, we're going to Mr. Primer. Marcus? Marcus?
Yes, it's true, because normally even to start a show, you've got John as a foil.
He's a good foil, right? I'm
John and you as a foil, so you guys can bounce back and forth.
Right.
So you want me to read one poem and then we'll move it along? Is that right?
No, I think I was talking through my hat. Do your normal. Do what you were going to do. That's probably better.
Well, I have
thanks for your patience and my internet aptitude and being so loving with me.
I was none of those things.
I know you were.
Get your ass on here. Now, you're 10 minutes late.
Glad I'm not married to that bread bacon bastard. Go ahead, Mark. It's your turn.
I have two pieces tonight, and I feel less able in this environment to properly segue them in or even figure out how to lead in. So I'm not really going to bother with that. So the first poem was written for Shannon. It's called Shannon. Shannon is my wife. Shannon is so lucky. I'm not sure if she's actually lucky. Maybe I'm lucky. But I will say that if I hadn't shown up when I did, she would still be eating Kraft dinner and Cheese Whiz and puffy white bread. And she'd probably be diabetic. The German and Czechoslovakian, that part wouldn't have changed, good God. And would not have benefited from my obstreperousness and would have had kids, but has in their place a studio filled with art and uteruses, the uteruses being hand puppets of a sort through which she speaks.
I'm so glad you read that.
Thank you.
I think that's one of my favorite poems of 2020.
Well, it's been a short year, Bill.
Still, it's a great poem. Thank you very much. Carry on.
The other poem is called "The End," and it was me trying to write something about a friend of mine who died 2 months ago, and so trying to add one more dimension to that whole experience. I never tried to put too much in one poem, but so this was called "The End." The way death affected me was that I was horrified, nay, disgusted. My friend became my enemy, a fitful, irrational opponent. so that on that morning, before she was sedated, I had to sit beside her bed just to make sure she stayed in bed, did not rip out her catheter or the saline drip trickling fluid beneath her skin. But she did not want me there, not at that point, and pressed lightly, trying to force me away, until finally she had succeeded the way a quarterback succeeds in moving the ball forward, edging closer and closer to the side of her bed, which she had fallen out of repeatedly. And I was forced to lift her up, returning her to the center. Only this time she screamed, the kind of scream you might imagine someone would scream if they were disemboweled. An hour later, a nurse arrived and sedated her, and a day later, the ambulance arrived. And we carried her out of the house in a body bag to take her to hospice. It would be hard to say I felt sad. I felt relieved. She no longer a friend.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. You know what? I think you're well suited to this medium, like the fact that your voice and you have such lovely cadence and diction. Well done. I think you have just relaxed the meeting, sir. Thank you. The host was a bit uptight. Love you, babe. Mr. Mowat. John Mowat Stephen, are you there?
And thanks, Bill, but not ready yet.
Not ready yet? That's okay.
Okay, thanks.
I think,
please go ahead.
Okay, no worries. Mr. Hadfield. We never put John Hadfield on earlier. I think that's a good thing.
Well,
Mr. Hadfield?
Could you first put John in a better light?
I'd have to change the light. I was fooling around trying to figure out how do I.
You do need a bit more light.
Go in the bathroom. The lighting's always better there, John.
I can go in the kitchen.
Okay.
Oh.
Whoa.
You're a shady character.
Yes.
Hi.
Yay. Good work, Rachel.
There I am. I pressed a button. Well, maybe you should go to somebody else and I'll get reset up.
Okay. All right. Deb, I know you're always ready. Are you with us, Deb?
I'm with you. I just had to unmute.
Oh, okay.
And,
thank you. Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm well. This means a lot to me.
Well, you know what?
The first words, it was like some food.
Oh, nice.
You hear
It's
some
odd
other
times.
voices, and especially the poetry. And Mark, you just got me.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
And so I've decided to do something different from what I'd planned. And I'm going to read poetry too, and not mine. Silentium by Steve Hayton. Don't speak. Stay hidden and withhold all word of your thoughts, your dreams, sealed in the soul's cosmos. Let them sail like stars through private skies, then fall from sight before dawn unmarred. Savor their arc. Don't say a word. How can your heart pin down the phrase by which it might be grasped? We lose in translation the worlds we know, say a thing, and it turns untrue, and leaves the deep spring's face sound scarred. Drink from the source. Don't say a word. Learn to live in self's retreat. A cosmos forms there where the light can't force its way, and where no sound drowns out the spell of singing mind and leaves it dazzled, deaf, unheard. Take in this song. Don't say a word.
Lovely. Wow.
And It's Okay That Late at Night by Wade Bell. It's okay that late at night, the narrow unmade bed, the birthmark of bitter wine in the valley of the glass, the musicians exiting through the window. It's all right to worry that the daily bread will go stale, the water evaporate like the image in the photograph, to want foreign fingers with caresses like magma, rising through sand, All right to dream the smell of morning in the tropics, to spend life at both ends of the microscope. It's okay to need lessons in breathing. All right to send tears to comfort the lost breast, to cool the amputated psyche, fog self-consciousness, dilute the shame, grow Hollywood monstrous from a petri dish of childhood rebukes and ridicule. For the step too far, for the word too many, the chair rocked back, eventually rocks forward. Daughter of Atlas, Maya lived in a cave, avoiding company. Zeus, exploring the shadowed mountains, discovered her and wooed her in secret. In secret, she entertained him. In secret, gave birth to Hermes, son of love and the fiery passion. That is the secret of the shy. To hide the stain, refill the glass, will the image back into the photo. Shout the word, take the step, liberate the word, take many steps. Long, full steps will take you far. And one more, 314 by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Beautiful. Wow. Three
Poetry
wonderful
will
choices.
keep us alive, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
A question for you.
Sure. I'll try to answer it. No problem.
Well, no, three wonderful choices and really well read too. I mean, well done. How have you found this new social situation has affected your writing? I mean, it seemed people might imagine that, all this time, but is it too much time? Have you been fruitfully writing?
Harder to write. It's harder to write because my little fantasies seem so silly. But as much as I need to hear poetry, I need to write, and so I do anyway. And I've heard the same from other fellow writers that they're feeling it harder to keep creating, but they are.
Right.
And,
I think anytime there's like a title shift, everything that people were finding amusing before is at risk of suddenly not being amusing. Like I just read a short piece in the New York Times about the shift in terms of how celebrity culture is viewed at this moment, because you've got all these celebrities sitting in their, 15,000 foot square home and isolating, and how horrible that looks. So here you were able to get away with something for a long period of time, and suddenly that's just unpalatable. So even in terms of what I don't know, it's like a big vacuum right now. It just kind of sucks up all the thoughts in the room.
mm-hmm.
The pandemic business.
It does.
I have a little.
But I think when we speak and when we dare to do new things, because this is weird to me, I do not want to be taking up my full screen. Thank you very kindly. But I'm so pleased to see your faces.
Yeah, thank you.
And likewise.
Thanks for your contribution, and remember that those fantasies are worthwhile, divertissement for the rest of us. So keep up the good work, Dan.
Yeah. Excuse me, Bill.
Yes, John.
Yes, I have a little poem here that's, I think, apropos of what we've just been talking about.
Okay, John Mowat Stephen, ladies and gentlemen.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll just read this one for now and then let it go and come back in later with something else if there's time.
Okay.
This was, I think it'll be apparent that this was something that I wrote just recently in the midst of the current conditions. Feeling small today. Can you hear my voice all right? Is this good?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Feeling small today, in the distances from here, to faces I love, voices I love, warm radiance felt from a smile close by, smells of people, the presence of a hug and symphonies of conversations all around. Quiet inside again today. Grieving gently, I shelter small, listening for messengers of struggle and of suffering, of brave and honest hearts doing good among spirits of us all. We are rare and precious creatures, humankind, children amidst vast and empty space, and only one another to give us of our comfort and our care. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Sorry, I was trying to adjust my. Apparently, I'm distracting by trying to hold the phone up. So, apologize. I still had your audio there.
Alrighty.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll come back to John. Mr. French,
What
are you
about
out there?
You could
What
you could
about-
read one.
what about Cassandra?
Oh, Cassandra. Sorry. Yes, we haven't really brought you forth. Sorry.
Top left corner, Bill. How you got your screen set up?
There's nobody in the top left corner. Cassandra, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Hello.
Welcome. I wasn't passing you by
Oh,
on
no, that's
purpose.
okay.
Cassandra, so your first time to Love of Words?
Yes, first time.
Nice. Well, welcome. And what do you want to share with us?
Well, I don't know what poems Bob read, so I just chose a few. So I was thinking,
Oh, don't worry, they were shocking.
I'll just
They were
read,
good.
I'll just read 3 poems. If that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's lovely.
And everyone can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So these poems are from my book, which is about my experiences with addiction, sex work, violence, abuse. I was on the streets in the downtown east side. And this poem is called Characters, and it's about the people that I met downtown. Okay. This one girl was slender but strong, and obviously wired off her fucking mind. And this dealer paid her $20 to knock out his worker, who was hiding in the contact center behind Carnegie. She was obviously someone to be careful with, and she packed one hell of a punch. And there was an older woman who people called Draco. She told me she was a dangerous person and could sense people's characters, and that she trusted me with her keys, which was cool, but her room was a dump with mice running all over. But it was better than outside in the rain. And Sarah was a pregnant lady who nevertheless still smoked crack and drank whiskey, and was a local dealer and often cuffed people, so there's always someone who owed her money. She was pretty popular and was nice to me despite my feelings about women doing hard drugs while with child. And there was a white chick named Dina who defended my honor and punched out this Vietnamese guy and even spoke the language herself. She was a good person to have on your side, and we would go on binges until no money was left. But over time, she grew more haggard, as being on the streets sucks the life out of people. And there was a chick named Jen who frequented the alley behind the Carnegie, and it wasn't someone you want to piss off. She was a short native chick with a weathered face who howled like a wolf and tried to pick fights when she was drunk. And Shelley was a woman who you actually really did not want to tick off, and she has fucked up those who did. And I lived for a few months in the same house with her, and we basically got along. And even though she was tough, she could not escape an ass whooping when she called the guy in the basement a goof. And like I said before, it was like someone poured a bucket of blood all over her. That's one. This poem is about my experiences in jail. I was not prepared for the amount of waiting that occurs. I waited to be processed and waited to be transferred and waited in the wagon and waited in court and waited to eat and waited to be counted. Everything slowed down to a set routine where time was measured. Inmates were arrested for drugs, and often their drug was heroin. So unless they have methadone right away, they get down sick, and having a cellmate who is going through smack withdrawal sucks. My first cellmate managed to smuggle in crystal meth, but she left after a couple days, and I was glad because it's not the greatest to be in close quarters with a person on meth. I was going to be transferred to ACCW since my security risk was minimum, so I waited in the holding cell for the sheriffs to frisk me, and then waited in the wagon to go to the facility. What followed was the basic routine in which everyone is bored, so the dramatics are elevated. I was lucky I was only there for 4 months, but I felt sorry for the women headed to federal, like this one woman facing 25, or another charged with giving a man HIV. After lunch, I always worked out, and in the evenings lifted weights. During the day, I shot hoops, but I spent most hours sitting in the gazebo smoking cigarettes. When I was waiting to be released, I felt like time was creeping by, as if seconds were minutes, and minutes were hours, and the world just slowed right down. So that's one poem. And this last poem might not be the last, but the next one is called Perfume, and it's about the alleys in the downtown east side. Walk down, turn right, and follow the odor of shit and piss behind Carnegie, where low-level dealers and rats, roughly the size of small cats, scurry by the overflowing garbage dumpsters. Some roaming addicts rip-roaring high and stuck in the hole in the wall, scared of the blue cruisers and their rubber-gloved searches. Walk through the scary, empty corridors of the Astoria Hotel, a place where bad things happen, but nobody ever seems to be around, with dried bloodstains and old mattresses infested with bedbugs. Beside it, the small liquor store where 24/7 alcoholics lurk while sipping Listerine. Crack pipes, burned lips so toxic that spiders appear out of nowhere and crawl over skin and floors, and pieces of Brillo get stuck in lungs. Some twirl around in the alley demanding free cigarettes from passerby. Some are on hands and knees picking at wax. Or sometimes it's like snipers are in the buildings with trained guns and black helmets. Smell the street, how it's an entity unto itself, like cold concrete vessels with dirty puddles and scary people who will fuck you over and fuck you up. That block-long street market with hustlers and dealers and scrapers, and that smell that permeates the air. Down here, nothing is fair. It's a circus with old ghosts walking the alleys, as those predators tread lightly and silently behind the innocent. That's it.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Well, I must say it was brilliant the other night when Bob read your work, and I'm so happy to have you here. There's another voice coming over the top.
Those predators tread lightly and silently.
Is Sandra still talking?
Oh no, it's a reverb. I must say it was brilliant. Hold on, Byron. Hi. Oh, we've got a delay. I think the YouTube channel's coming through. Sorry, Cassandra.
It's okay.
Anyway, your reading came through perfectly well in good time. Thank you so much. Your writing's amazing. I hope you will come and visit us sometime.
Yeah, as soon as all this is over.
I know. Yeah, I think you just gave us a good class in writing from the real, and thank you so much. But Byron was computer speakers. Oh, that's what happened. Right, he was playing the YouTube channel, which was delayed in the background. So turn down your YouTube if you have it. Hi, Byron. And your phones. Byron, behave.
Talk now.
He's just got here and he's misbehaving.
Oh, you turned off your video.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, Byron.
It took me forever to figure out how to get in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you are.
No, you're not kidding. It's been 40 minutes.
One for every year of my life.
There's a little snow on the roof there.
What happened to Billy?
I don't know. Bill dropped his phone.
Is he still there?
Oh,
Well, Bill, it looks like his phone is there, but I'm not sure where Bill's gone.
Yep.
Cassandra, how long? If you're reading such confessional work, I guess it's inevitable that certain questions just pop up again and again when you're reading. Like, how long have you been off the streets, for instance?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah.
I was in the drug lifestyle for 6 years, from 19 to 25.
Okay. And do you originally come from this area, or do you come from somewhere else?
I was born and I spent my first 6-7 years in the Yukon, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we moved to Whitehorse, and then to Prince George, and then finally to Vancouver. And I lived in Vancouver for about 15 years.
Okay. Okay. And what brought you to Duncan, may I ask?
We were just looking to not be in the city anymore. It was getting too busy. The traffic was crazy, and we came here to look at the house, and we just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And living here, I don't regret moving here. It's so different from the city, and the people are so much more nice. Than in Vancouver. I don't know. It's just I live in on Knipson, so I'm living right by Cowichan Bay on the Mount Zahalem.
Okay.
Right on the mountain there, so I can see the whole bay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for filling in, Marcus. The host cut out there temporarily. And Mr. French has just sat down. I almost said SH. Hi, Andrew.
I feel like I'm looking at one of those, when I look over at their picture on my screen, I feel like I'm looking at, I don't know, early Leave It to Beaver.
Ooh. Oh.
Like, look at this. Look at the way they're dressed and the background. It's like your grandparents.
It's just so very nice.
They have good taste. I can't believe you're giving them a hard time.
Sorry, I like to throw out little tidbits about people because, of course, it's not just our writing that people know us through. It's actually, it's almost like when you go and look at art and some artists want to say, "Oh, the painting, it stands by itself," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't. The painting's informed by the person that you're have a relationship." That's why people connect to art, I think, as much as they do. But Rachel here, who's over on your screen, the what kind of turtleneck do you call that? Or sorry, what do you call that thing? What's that style?
It's called a Peter Pan collar.
It's a Peter Pan collar. So Rachel with the Peter Pan collar is gifted extremely in the artistic sense. You'll look at her drawings, which look like they're weird and incredibly detailed. Oh, can you? No, don't show that. That shit work. Put up the good stuff.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Can you, Rachel? Could you show something like really good?
Oh,
What's that other stuff?
Something actually good. Jeez.
I want Cassandra to know something about everybody in the room if I can.
Oh, wow.
So that's what she does.
So how can we get a shot of that?
She just has to speak.
Oh, John,
Say,
you can set. I think you cannot. Can John not set his settings so that he gets a picture of everybody?
Rachel just needs to speak. Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
So when I speak, it activates my screen for John?
Right.
For
right.
everybody.
For everybody, yeah.
John, open your peepers.
Got it.
Whoa.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on.
Booyah.
Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
Mr. French, would you like to share something with us today? This evening?
Yeah.
Could Mr. French tell Cassandra how he first got to go out with Rachel?
Mark, someday you'll get to host your own show. Not tonight. Thank you, and shut up for a second. Mr. French is going to read to us. Andrew?
Okay, I'm not going to read any of my own stuff. If you can, it's Robert Denoise.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this dude was 1920s surrealism. And it kind of makes sense, I guess, for these times, I think. So I'll just read one piece because, to be quite honest, I'm very much unprepared. But this is Journal of an Apparition. Life still has in store for us some surprises, despite the disappointments it hands out so generously. The marvelous still consents to place on our tired foreheads its gloved hand and takes us into astounding labyrinths. We wander along after it among the beds of bleeding flowers. We come across supernatural presences in incredible landscapes. But a day comes when all these many marvels finally gives us wings. Like Icarus, we will die from our luck, or like Daedalus, we will land in a country less beautiful, that from then on in, we will insist on considering as the only reality. Let them talk to us about the famous labyrinth and the adventures we undertook there. We shall hesitate to describe it otherwise than as in a dream state. And someday, considering the burnt stumps that were our wings, a witness to the marvels that we saw and the instruments of a pseudo-deliverance, we will be filled with tenderness about ourselves and will curse the skepticism of memory and man's tendency to confuse the present with reality.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, very much. A couple of notes for those participating. So what happens is that even in our last discussion, when our voices come so close together, it works perhaps for Zoom, but it doesn't work for the YouTube transfer. So we just have to be careful about clear breaks in between people speaking. And the other thing is, as Byron has noticed now, if you make a noise with your computer, you shuffle something in the room, the camera goes to you. So anytime I was mishandling my phone earlier in an attempt to, and it was always coming back. So that's just a note. Any extraneous noise draws you the view. That's not a problem. Makes it interesting. Mr. Hadfield, have you got better lighting yet?
Well, this is as good as it gets for now.
That's better. That's better, yeah. John Hadfield, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Lighting would be better in the bathroom, John.
The bathroom. I'm not going in the bathroom. Just so you, who gives a shit? In keeping, well, I should have followed Mark because, you know, after Cassandra told her stories, it reminded me of my cab stories and my journeys through the East End of Vancouver and my run-in with street people and my main character in the story, the girl who ends up on the street. So I thought, well, anyway, I'm as unprepared as Andrew. So, and I thought, you know, usually I read from my computer, and I thought, how am I going to do this? You know, so you guys can still see me even though I brought up a page and it blocks everything off.
I believe so. Your camera would still be on.
Yes, that's true. Okay. So sort of keeping with from Mark, that I ordinarily wouldn't read this, but I'm gonna. It's called I See Frank. I don't know if I'll preface it by saying I have some odd encounters in my mind, and a lot of times I don't know how to take them, and this is one of them. During the period of the failed reconciliation with the former, I had a rather odd encounter with her father, who had passed away many years earlier. The former and I had gone to bed. We were lying in the dark, but both awake. I had a similar little jolt go through me, like when I saw the soldier in the hole. That's another story. I saw the former, I call the ex-wife the former. I saw the former's dad, Frank, sitting on the end of a bed in a small room that looked like it was part of some cheap motel. He had his head in his hands. He looked up and started to talk to Jean. I said to her, for what it's worth, I think I have your father here in my head and he's talking to you. I don't really recall what he was saying, as I just sort of acted as a sort of a relay and just said what he said. He asked her if she had any questions, and I relayed those to him and his answers back to her. Again, I don't recall what was said. Her father was a very stern man, didn't show much in the way of emotions. He had 4 daughters. At this point in time, 3 of them were divorced, and his last one was about to get divorced. And I don't know if in the writing he says something to me, but anyway, in the course of this going on, and I'm just like a relay saying stuff that he said and what she said, and while this was going on, I got a vision of a farmhouse. It was red brick, 2-story affair with a wraparound porch with a roof over it, the kind you would see on a concession road in Ontario. It was like I was standing in the long driveway up from the road, looking at the house and the surrounding buildings. I noticed a sort of broken down wooden shed out behind the house to my left. I told Jean what I was seeing in between the relaying. She identified the house as a place Frank went as a boy. The shed behind was where he kept goats. I figured I couldn't be just making this shit up now, as it had been kind of weird to me. I got the impression he was very sad about the fact that all his daughters were divorced and that I was the last one in a relationship with one of them. He said, and I put said in quotes, it's not like he's talking, that he had never really liked me, but the fact that he respected the fact that I was still with Jean and was trying to work it out. Frank felt I was his last hope for saving one of his daughters, but alas, it was not to be. I asked him if he could shed some light on all this. His family, his daughters, he always had his head down and didn't answer me. I got some impression about the time he had spent during the war. I thought he'd been a navigator on a bomber, but when I asked Jean, she said he was a navigation instructor, I think somewhere in Manitoba. I just took that in as I continued to see him. He seemed very sad. That was the way I left him. I would go back to the vision over the next month, and he was always in the same place, sitting on the end of the bed with his head in his hands and his elbows on his knees. One night, about a month after the initial meeting, I got the idea of going in his head to find out for myself what had gone on. It was strange, weird to do that. It was like he was in a purgatory, not moving on. I could see that he felt bad about something from the war. I realized he felt tremendous guilt, knowing he was teaching men and boys skills that would ultimately end with their deaths. The casualty rate in Bomber Command was extremely high. He had worked in Veterans Affairs after the war, maybe trying to make up for something. Survivor's guilt. I saw all these airmen standing outside the room. They looked like they were waiting for him. He really had nothing to tell me about his daughters or his family. I think he may have been just as in the dark as I was. I did find out that his wife, Jean Sr., had converted to Catholicism. I had always thought she was a dyed-in-the-wool Catholic. She lost her mother at an early age, and the father remarried, and the stepmother kept them segregated from the father's new family. She didn't give or show any love to Jean Sr. and her sister. The former said the only time she saw Frank cry was when the eldest daughter, Caroline, refused to go to church anymore. All the girls resented having to go. I think a lot of those women in his family, what a lot of those women in his family did was hidden from him. Jean herself was incredibly deceptive. So I told him about the airmen standing outside the room, waiting for him. I told him they didn't hold him responsible for their deaths, that the skills he had taught them enabled them to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. They saw him as one of them and were waiting for him to join them in a joyous reunion. I said God had forgiven him for anything he had done, and he should forgive himself and go with God and join his comrades. I showed him a door that was in the wall behind him. I told him to get up and go to the door. He did so and opened it a crack. This bright white light showed up. It didn't flood into the room, but just stayed outside, right along the opening of the door. He turned and looked at me with this big smile on his face and pushed the door open and went into the light and disappeared. I imagined the welcome he was getting from his long-lost friends, and that made me feel happy for him. The end.
Thank you, John. Nicely done. Frank. Where are we now? Mr. Miller has joined us, Byron Miller.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
So I'm up?
You are up.
Well, as some of you may know, I had a son die of a fentanyl overdose on March 9th in Surrey. And he lived in the downtown east side for quite some years. He was just 2 months shy of his 35th birthday. And he really embraced the rap hip hop culture. And we went over on the weekend of the 13th and 14th and managed to see him. And at that time, my daughter had his phone, and I transferred it to my phone. I got some of his latest writing. He's been doing this for 20 years. I've got a cardboard box on my front porch that is a decade old, full of stuff he's written. So this was last updated on the 20th of February. So there's a couple of them, but I'll just run them together and you'll get a sense. If you see my inner child, give him a high five and make him smile. Tell him I love him. Wow, it's been a while. Warn him of the bar scene and not to begin sinning because it'll get wild. Patiently wait in line, even if it's single file. If I could do me again, I would leave all I didn't need but keep my friends. I fully concede that this will be the end. But there I be, constantly, keep going back again. I would show me who to befriend and motivate me at each peak I ascend to tell myself to dig deep and mean it when I read these amends. And at each hardship or defeat, I would bow at my feet and commend, because the past is the past, no need for revenge. Love is as love is received. I was one, hard not to succumb and believe. On one run, once done, would have taken months. Of you not calling me and tons of apologies to beat the grief. Learn to rebuild piece by piece. Drunk driving car crashes headfirst through the front windshield and skidded to my knees. The prayers that I would speak landed me back in that child seat. I'm in love with my spirit. Hug it. But please, no, not in public. Maybe I'm bullshitting. I thought I loved it, or at least the whole idea of it. All that baggage, I drug it. And this hole with no way out, I dug it. Now there is a way out, but I must stay recovered. Keep loving and rise above it. I used to be hard to talk to. I'd run for your job, dude, and be the first drunk motherfucker to mock you. I had lots of goals, none of them accomplished, even though I ought to. If I could, I'd morph back, give myself a slap, and ask myself who taught you to be so dumb. All but the thumb, middle, ring, and pinky have been trying to get the point across to get you out of your lost thinking, and for fuck's sake, stop drinking. As years passed, magic appeared, such as learning to tie my shoes. I was the type to loosely grab rabbit ears. Never tongue-tied, was the type of guy with a quick reply, if she's cute. I wasn't used to what's happened here. I might be shy, mutter high, make me nervous laughter clear, snap a picture, I guarantee you couldn't capture it clearer. So that's one. 40 of OE, that's Old English, that's a cheap drink. Any people might be familiar with it.
What's it called?
It's like Old English. It's a malt liquor that you can buy. So he says, 40 of OE, once drink was my DOC, drug of choice. Once drink was my DOC, downtown, on side, try and hide, nobody noticed me. Was a dope fiend, hope? Nope. I just roamed hopelessly. Coke dust, no trust, cuffin' dope, please. Want enough rope in me on my patio to hang myself openly. Now I hold on tight, cry out my fear on mics ferociously. Now that I ain't got drink and drugs stopping me, I can make real money, not monopoly. Invest in property, give it back, reverse robbery. Rehearse verses constantly, no more jacking purses. Talk to perverse persons non-awkwardly. Stop and shock to see people really want to talk to me. They are lenient, I hope, almost across the beam that broke, seemingly stoked in between the chokes. Show up, hoped up, self-esteem provokes heat, the team beaming sunstroke, dreaming of dumb quotes from the ones we done wrote. All I want is for my music to survive me, carry on the legacy like elephant's ivory, but by biting poachers, but by those who've been vibing me, I need a rhino tusk as my vinyl needle. I want to search for my records, people like those from the Beatles. That's a sample.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It's not like he didn't inherit that rhyme gene, eh?
I know. What, chip off the old block or something? Except like more prolific.
Yeah. So he was on the streets for a long time?
Oh yeah. Like he was like a foster kid, like in his teens. Then he outgrew that. Like he lived with his mother, right?
Okay.
Until she farmed him out. I was in his life, but I was not there daily or anything. So
yeah.
He didn't get my guidance.
Yeah.
I admit that.
Yeah.
But he went on an upswing. The day of that he died that evening, we were texting, and he was sending me pictures of the job he was on. He was doing a patio job on Eagle Island in West Vancouver. And then after he died, the contractor and the owners of the property invited us out. They said, you know, hey, he made an impression on us. Come on out and see where he was working. So when we went over on the weekend, my daughter Peter and I went there and met those folks. Yeah, it was good.
Wow. Lots of love to you and your family, Brian.
Well,
yes.
Wow. Have we covered everybody? John Mowat, did you have something else you wanted to add?
I'm not sure that my mic is on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I do have something else. I'd just like to preface it with recognition to two of our readers, Byron and I'm sorry, I've forgotten the young woman's name. Cassandra, yes. Thank you both for those very moving stories. I guess I could preface what I'm about to read with just by saying that I'm very aware of major crises in the world these days. I've been long concerned about climate disruption and the resulting social and economic disruptions and great hardship for everybody that's coming down. And now with the coronavirus on top of all that, it's a desperate stew. So part of what I've been about in the midst of all that awareness and dealing with all that is it's a celebration of the wonders of humankind. And so this seems a bit Pollyanna-ish, maybe after some of what we've heard this evening. But anyway, this is what I have to offer just now. After hearing of childhood delight. After hearing of childhood delight in silent places, of gentle light and color of winter, a listener spoke of how we pass into adult years and lose that sense of wonder. She enjoyed her moment of reflection, having known the poem as she did, having known again perhaps some childhood wonder of her own, and then enjoyed a little lamentation at its passing. So I left her with that recollection, but thought perhaps with some that is so, that such wonder fades, that is the joy of a life, a celebration. But there is the way and the spirit of an artist, whose duty then, among others going, having lost not that delight and beauty, is to carry even a small and delicate light of it, such childhood wonder, such gift to share in awareness its pleasure and its generosity upon the world. And let its blessing shine continuing upon things whether great or small, so that others might know again or still the innocent delight and beauty and wonder that is a child's gift and blessing upon us all. May we all be artists in our ways, so that we might be, as is said, as little children, sharing in worlds of innocent delight, thankful in the wonder of it all. That's that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, John. Well, if I haven't missed anybody, I want to thank you all. I've got a little piece to wind up. And what's that? I'm getting a signal from Ted. Oh, he's waving. Thanks to Tim
for doing all this work to throw it together, and to Mark for initiating the idea. It certainly brought our little community together, and very important in these times. Cassandra, I hope you'll come back and visit. And sorry? Oh, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you. Yes, normally we have this
thing where we go out and to the pub later, and we all get to talk at once and share ideas and appies. So we'll be missing that. And as I was about to say, thanks to Tim for all the gymnastics to make Mark's idea of the Zoom meeting via YouTube work.
Yes.
And
thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mark. And thanks to Longevity, who's at home resting. They've been doing quite a few shows in isolation lately. And so that's a wonderful thing. Tim and Trevor set this as a beautiful living room the other night. So isn't it cozy? you guys would have loved it. Usually at the pub, I'll give you this to think about before I do my short piece.
One time it was new careers that Bill could have, and they all gave me wonderful suggestions. And lately I've been working on with my boss, the fellow I'm building with, reasons why Bill is not in a committed relationship. And for you married guys especially, you can give a lot of cues to us dilettantes as to why perhaps we're not in a committed relationship. There you are. And so this was an obvious one, of course. Drinks too much at home. Has not yet dealt with family trauma, number 2. Number 3, communicates less and less as the relationship progresses. That's never a good one. Number 4, sometimes finishes and flops on the bed, forgetting that she may not be done. And that's a definite sin. So we almost give that one a star. Dishes, yeah, he doesn't finish the dishes. Imaginative, number 5, imaginative and romantic at first, fades into boring patterns of sex and behavior. Number 6, shares close times with his theater mates, forgets that she might feel excluded. So that was number 6. I think we got up to 13 the other day, and we're just sitting around banging boards together. So hopefully you'll help me in my quest for reasons why I am not in a committed relationship and what I can do therefore. It's a kind of therapy. Gives me a chance to work on these things at home in isolation. These are what I depend on my true writing friends for. And we are a lovely community. Thank you all for being here. This was a piece about the theater. Actually,
well, Matilda was to go up April 23rd, 24th. So that's put on hold. So it's a weird feeling. We were, 6 weeks out from the show, and that's a big build, especially for such a complicated one. So to have a stake driven into it temporarily, very odd.
Postponed perhaps to July, maybe September. Our Shakespeare Festival, perhaps up in the air. But I was writing about service and why I guess my contribution in community being either theater or this love of words, emceeing, that sort of thing. This is my service. That is my creation. That is my joy, my participation in a good and rich life, and so blessings be on all you cultural citizens. And light your own star for the ways that you support and participate in culture in your own neighborhood, in your community. I am proud to serve. I could be a placemat for all your preschool doodles, a thing that catches spilt noodles. This blessing does not represent, nor is it given express written consent of any of the cultural boards I may have served on. Thespian-riddled ranks of the Shawnigan Players, the musical magical family of the Couch and Folk Guild, the community arts extravaganza of the Duncan Couch and Summer Festival, 39 Days of July. I can only, in this moment, express my joy as a cultural citizen of this beautiful land. Whether I be acting or singing or emceeing or hosting spoken word at the DGS, that was where we started out, the Duncan Garage showroom. We're now at the Duncan showroom. 12 years later, or a jam at one of the courts, or what used to be called the Oakwood Carriage. And I desired that the cultural map would place me and all my bits and make me Google friendly and GPS star bright to get those culture vultures swarming my personal compound. Could be a wife in there somewhere, you never know. I have product, I am a product, I produce and therefore also become part of the production team. I'm a normally disorganized, artsy kind of type masquerading on boards of directors and trying to get organized and getting things done. I'd like to be well described on the cultural map when I die, perhaps. I don't know. I'd like to be well dressed when I die, like this. And I wanted especially to mention, as a footnote, that I'm actually wearing the hem of Mark's sister's summer dress. So he thinks he's so smart, and here I've gotten a prize without him knowing it. So thank you all for your contribution to the arts and for your contribution to For the Love of Words. Gang, thank you all. And Tim and John.
And I hope we'll see you again. Perhaps we'll do this. I felt awkward at first, and I do feel a little awkward, but it's been exciting too, that we've had the real quality of sharing that we normally have when we're in the room. So thank you all very much. And I will say goodnight, and take care of yourselves out there, and take care of your friends and loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody want to say goodnight?
Yes.
Good night.
Good night. Everyone be well.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We love you. Love you, Long John.
Take care.
Where's the appies?
Where's the appies? That's right.
Yeah, where are the appies?
In the fridge.
Love you guys. Thanks for being part of this community.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
You're a rock star.
We don't care what Mark says. On that happy note, let's say goodnight. Signing off
How
now.
sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs. Now there you were. With bits of love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. Gonna stop. Thank you, baby. Said I'm gonna stop. All right. Thank you, baby. Come on now, people. Here we go now. How sweet it is to be loved by you. All right. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Close my eyes at night, wondering where I'd be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, I've been there before. But you got enough for me and on my way. Enough to last me all my days. Gonna stop. Thank you, baby. Said I'm gonna stop. All right, thank you, baby. Here now, come on. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Sing the song, children, now. Come on now. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Close my eyes at night, wondering where I'd be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, I've been there before. But you got enough for me and all my ways. Enough to last me all my days. Gonna stop. Thank you, baby. Said I'm gonna stop. And thank you, baby. Come on, gal, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh, you got it now. Come on. How sweet it is to be loved by you. how sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh, yeah.